public hearing is being recorded under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. Anyone else desiring to make such a recording or transmission must please identify themselves now. And I am not seeing anyone, so with that, I will turn it. Oh,
Hi, this is Tribeca Jordan from WCAI. I was going to make a recording of this as well for some cut and scripts for my radio station.
okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yep.
All right. With that, I will turn it over to our tree warden, Andrew Prenier. Andy.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So we are here on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 at 6 p.m. or a little bit after now, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 87, Shade Trees. All persons deemed interested or affected by the town of Barnstable's proposed tree removal are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held right now and will be discussed the removal of 91 trees. The tree removals are necessary to support the phase 3 of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, also known as CCRT, which will extend the trail from Old Townhouse Road in Yarmouth to Mary Dunn Road in Barnstable. The properties that are affected are as follows, which is only one. 0 Mary Dunn Road in Barnstable Village at the end of Independence Drive for anybody who is not familiar. Parcel ID number 347002001. Again, the total is 91 trees. The species composition is black oaks, some white oaks, and some sassafras as well. These trees have been noted and deemed for this hearing because construction has already began on the Mass Wildlife property, which is the parcel I just named. It's owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, maintained by Mass Wildlife and Fisheries, which has already been approved. These trees are located within the road layout, which is why we are having this hearing as of now. I have reviewed these trees. I have reviewed the location multiple times with all the parties involved, Mass DOT and the town of Barnstable engineering department who are involved in this project. And basically, I guess to explain the location of the trees are located within the road layout along Mary Dunn, and the rail trail has already, or the bike path, Cape Cod Rail Trail has already started. So the trees behind the layout trees are have been removed. So therefore, a lot of the trees within the layout, within this about approximately several hundred feet section, are exposed. So with the tree clearing alone in itself and the upcoming construction, they are now exposed to wind throw, root damage, and as the tree warden and a certified arborist for the town of Barnstable, the risks are unacceptable, and therefore that's why we are having this hearing for their removals. At this point in time, I will open the floor to public comment, and then we will go from there. Kelly, could you please?
Yeah, so if folks want to either raise their hand or indicate that they have a public comment, I am happy to unmute you. All right, we'll start with you, Kathy.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I don't have a raise hand feature here. Sorry about that. Um, so anyway, thank you very much for the hearing, and thank you to the staff for organizing and presenting this. So my name is Kathy Ledeck. I'm a year-round resident of Barnstable Village. I drive by Mary Dunn and Independence Road all the time, so I'm very familiar with the area. But first, I want you to know my comments tonight are my own. They do not represent the opinion of any other organization. So for us residents, the impact of removing 91 trees is significant. A reminder to you and everyone listening, we live on a windy sandbar. The trees protect us from the adverse impacts of climate change. Trees protect us from wind, they slow down precipitation, they absorb and filter stormwater, buffer noise, they cool the air around us through shade, provide wildlife habitat, and more. Each of the 91 trees is important. The collection or grouping of trees is even more important than any one tree that stands alone. As a grouping, they're stronger, supporting each other and provide us with even more protection. Not only are the trees in very good health important, but also the trees that are in less good health provide important wildlife habitat. And when they begin to decompose, they return nutrients to the soil. With low nutrient soils here, we really need this. Now, providing safe opportunities for bicycle recreation and transportation is important. Safety from trees falling on us while we're on those trails is also important. But the little secret that's not always discussed is that bicycle transportation is not always good for our environment. In this case, it has an adverse environmental impact because it requires the cutting down of 91 trees. So my question is, what is the compensatory mitigation required for the removal of these important trees? I will add, just because it isn't required doesn't mean it should not be done. Where will you replant for what is lost? A standard recommendation ratio is 2-to-1, 2 native trees for every 1 removed. An additional calculation should be whatever the total DBH that will be removed, twice the total DBH is what should be planted. I'm sure the town can get a good deal on native trees for tree planting. With a total project cost of 16.3 million, tree planting would be a tiny fraction of this project with a very big impact. Also, the trail will fragment habitat. Will you be installing under the trail culverts with flat bottoms to allow safe wildlife movements from one side of the trail to the other? Frogs, salamanders, turtles, and other small mammals will be flattened when they cross this trail. Preventing them from crossing is not an appropriate strategy. What will be done to protect our land-based mammals from the adverse impacts of this trail? Those are my questions. I look forward to hearing specific actions that will be taken. Thank you for the opportunity to comment and for considering my request. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, for your comments and your questions. As far as the compensation of tree plantings, as far as for my known of the project, the way the bike path is going to be laid out, there will be some opportunity for plantings, but I do not believe that there will not be more than anywhere close to 91 trees being replanted. We do have a plan to plant trees within the parking lot area of the rail trail there, or bike path rail trail. I'm just going to call it the rail trail there. And there is a planting plan. I have reviewed it. I reviewed it like about a year or two ago and put my comments in on tree species and whatnot. As far as the implementation of the other things that you asked about for the rail trail, I will turn this over to either Griffin, our town engineer, or Paul Graves, the senior engineer project manager.
Andrew, just a quick follow-up question. Do you mind? So with regard to the compensatory tree planting, thank you for letting us know that tree planting will be done in the parking lot areas. That's really important to do. But compensatory tree planting doesn't have to be specifically on the side of the rail trail or in that parking lot. It can also be within the same watershed. So there may be other protected lands that the town owns that could use more trees. So I'm just saying that that's another opportunity for tree planting in other areas. Just a suggestion to consider.
Okay, thank you. As far as tree planting, if it's along the rail trail there, so the way this rail trail is laid out, it's going through Mass Wildlife property. So essentially, this rail trail is going through a wood lot. So as far as plantings, I know that there's certain schematics around the rail trail itself, as far as a good, robust shoulder and other. I know there's other regulations. I guess I shouldn't speak more on it because I don't know any more on that. So again, I'll turn it over to our engineers to answer that.
I can try to address some of this. Griffin Bowden, the town engineer for the town of Barnstable. So the rail trail is designed to minimize the amount of clearing that's necessary through the corridor, believe it or not, with the number of trees we're talking about. So as Andy alluded to, the area that's going through the wildlife property is basically a swath that had to be cleared in order to facilitate the installation of the rail trail. That swath was reviewed by wildlife and other permitting agencies through the permitting process. It's also not what we're here talking about this evening. We're talking about the trees within the public layout. But as part of that review, the wildlife impacts were reviewed. There are not any culverts or crossings proposed underneath the rail trail, but they were not required as part of the permitting process.
So is there anything that will prevent the wildlife from actually crossing the trail? Sometimes, and I've seen this before, where there are curbs along, either side, or will it be open so that the wildlife can easily get onto the trail and cross? Otherwise, if you have like a curb there, they can't really get across.
It's designed to be just to be open.
To be open. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. I would just ask that you consider compensatory tree planting in other areas, not necessarily adjacent to the rail trail, but other opportunities for tree planting. It would be a very small cost based on the $16.3 million price tag for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I see Carolyn's hand up as well. So Carolyn, I will go ahead and unmute you.
Okay, sorry, I'm on a phone and it keeps getting us crosswise. Just as a side note, first of all, we're residents of Hyannis. We are enthusiastic supporters of the rail trail. But just as an aside to what that woman was mentioning, there is a grant program which is currently working in Hyannis and some sections of other parts of Barnstable. It's called Greening Hyannis. And if you are, you can apply. Someone will come to your property, and if you are approved, they will plant trees on your property for free. And there is a list of native trees that you can choose from. We have 2 different properties, and we've had 4 different trees planted on these 2 properties. They're wonderful to work with. So if you're concerned about getting trees on your property, I highly recommend Greening Hyannis.
Hi, this is Bruce, Carolyn's husband, and the program has 2,400 trees available, and so far, according to their website, 8% of those have been planted. So there's a lot of opportunity for more.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs.
Thank you, Mr.
So yeah, that is the Greening Gateway City Program. The DCR, that is a DCR grant that Hyannis was awarded because we fell within the criteria for that. That is definitely something you can look up. It is called like Mr. and Mrs. Farrell said, Greening Gateway Hyannis. So any further questions on that, please look on that website.
Great. I also see that Brian Higgins has his hand raised. So Brian, I will go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to thank you for what you're doing. I'm a year-round resident. I have kids in Barnstable Public Schools. I myself am a product of Barnstable Public Schools and just want to express my support for what you're doing and excited to have an extended bike trail. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins, for your comment. I appreciate it.
All right. So Kathy, I see your hand raised. I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Thank you. And thank you for all the comments and all this information. I really appreciate it. I'm also a year-round resident. I live on Mary Dunn Road. I happen to go down toward Independence Drive pretty much every day. And so I've watched what's been going on with the tree removal and all the work that's going on. I think that we all should always be concerned about removing trees. You know, quite honestly, I know that sometimes it's necessary. But 91 trees does sound like a lot. So what I'm wondering, Andrew, if you could talk a little more specifically about where the 91 trees are. In other words, there are trees that I see between that go along that stretch of Mary Dunn. So they would be between Mary Dunn Road and where the bike path is being planned or laid out. Are those part of the trees that are being removed, or is it farther inward from the road?
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Sorry, I'm just looking on my Google Earth so I can get specific addresses here. What you saw the removals so far. So all these removals that you have seen are on Mass Wildlife property, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So yes, starting at the end of Independence Drive and a little bit south, which is where the parking lot is going to be. Again, the schematics of all this is going to be available on the Town of Barnstable's website. And the removal of the trees are basically sorry, I forgot the name of the school there. Oh, here we are. Trinity Christian Academy of Cape Cod. So like I said, if you run north from Independence Drive, several hundred feet, I think it's like approximately 600-ish, maybe up to 700-ish feet. So those trees are the ones within the road layout that need to be removed for the implementation of this bike path here. So those are the ones I'm concerned about. Again, failing and falling into the road. The ones that have been removed are on state property.
So essentially, there won't be any trees along that stretch of Mary Dunn, which parallels the bike path. Is that correct?
As the plan stands now, yes, but I have actually spoken with the engineers and Mass DOT about replanting where the opportunity presents itself. Again, it all depends on how close the bike trail is and stuff outside my brain here, like embankments and whatnot. So basically, I push the argument if we can replant, we will replant. Another caveat to this implementation of this bike path is that the water main, the water line, the principal one, the main artery going to Hyannis, also runs along this as well and is going to be relocated closer to the road off Mass Wildlife property. It's currently located within Mass Wildlife property. It's going to be moved into the town layout. And those are going running from the water towers just north of Route 6 there. And they run south right into Hyannis underneath the airport and everything. So that is actually a part of this project as well. So that's what makes replantings a little bit more difficult. But again, if the opportunities present themselves, we are going to replant some trees.
Andy, can I expand on that a little bit?
Yes, please, Griffin.
So yeah, Andy described the area in question. And so the proposed parking lot would be just a bit south of where Independence intersects with Mary Dunn. As the proposed bike trail approaches the parking lot, it gets tight to the road. So in that area, it's going to be effectively adjacent to the road with a bit of a separation, but not horizontally very far separated from the edge of the road, kind of similar to some of the other wide sidewalks you see in town, kind of as it's approaching the parking lot. As it heads north, it will separate a bit from the road, which will present an opportunity potentially for replanting as we get a little bit further north. The reason the trees need to come down now is because in order to grade the rail trail and make that come down into the parking area, there is a fairly significant embankment there, and so the earthwork required to build the rail trail will ultimately require some of those trees in that area to fail. But that may not. There will be some horizontal space there that there may be an opportunity to plant some trees in as we get north of Independence. And so that's what we'll be looking at and trying to evaluate the opportunities at that time.
And do you know yet when the work will begin on relocating the water pipes, the water line that goes from the towers, water towers? I don't think any of the work has started yet.
Yeah, I don't have an exact schedule on that. It's part of the contract. Paul, do you know when that may be occurring?
Yeah, that's scheduled to start probably before the end of this month, and then probably be completed within a couple months after that.
Okay. Thank you all for your information. I really appreciate hearing a little bit more about that the town values replanting some of these things, that it doesn't just leave it so exposed. And I have to say, this is sort of a balance between, I also support the idea of a rail trail, a bike trail coming this way. And yet the idea of the trees and nature, we have to protect what we have too. And I think that is where it's just a tough balance. And I appreciate the fact that it sounds as though both things are being given thought. Yeah. Yes. I see nods of head. So yeah.
Yes, yes, they are.
I'm glad to hear it. That makes me feel better. I know they have to be removed nonetheless, but yeah, the replanting is helpful to know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy.
I am not seeing any other hands raised at this time. Okay, Kathy Ledeck, go ahead and unmute.
I wanted to give everyone else an opportunity to ask questions before I raised my hand again. I too support the rail trail. I think it's a great project. We just need to make sure we do it right. So Ms. Paspa, thank you so much for your comments. You're right on the money there. I want to ask questions about stormwater management. There are some areas along the side of Mary Dunn where there is poor stormwater management. There's a lot of overflow of water. So if you drive along Mary Dunn Road and you're going north and you look to the right, you can really see where the runoff is sort of coming off of the Mass Wildlife property. So I wonder if this is going to be repaired, and will the stormwater be directed away from Mary Dunn, which I think would be important to do, because what we don't want to have happen is that Mary Dunn and the stormwater area off to the, east side of the road would get flooded in the event that we have a really big rainstorm. So can you talk a little bit about how the stormwater management will be managed in this area? Well, of course, now it's been deforested, so there isn't any stormwater management there, but we want to make sure that it's handled well at completion so that we don't have this sort of unexpected impact of flooding of Mary Dunn Road.
I can speak to that. So certainly won't speak to the existing stormwater concerns on Mary Dunn. That's outside the scope of this hearing, and I'm absolutely open to having conversations about that another time. Relative to the design of the stormwater of the bike path, there is a stormwater management design. There will be a stormwater management system at the parking area, which will kind of handle the section that is really in question. stormwater is not going to be directed to the road. That would not be the way we would want to have it designed anyway, because obviously we want to keep stormwater off the road to the extent possible. So that has been thought out as part of the design.
So I'm just curious about the grading, you know? So my question also relates to the rest of the trail. Will it be graded? You know, I'm just going to use my hands to show if you don't mind.
Sure.
Will it be graded a little bit like this so that on the rest of the trail, the stormwater will flow this way away from Mary Dunn Road versus if it were flat or in this direction with Mary Dunn Road over here? You know what I'm talking about. I don't want the sort of unexpected impact. I'm just curious about the rest of the trail. I understand the parking lot, but what about the rest of the trail itself?
Yeah, so the rest of the trail, after we get away from this like 700 feet that we're talking about here, kind of meanders away from Mary Dunn Road and really wouldn't even be all that close or have that much of a direct impact. We start to kind of turn into the wildlife area at that point. And then it's designed to stay away from the roadway. So
Very good. Thank you very much.
yeah, of
I look
course.
forward to seeing the plans online. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, I do not see any other hands raised at this time. I'll give everyone sort of one more minute before we close. Okay.
One thing I just want to note, the plans are available online right now. They're on the Town of Barnstable's Department of Public Works website. We have a project site set up. There's a project and updates link that has a link for the Cape Cod Rail Trail, and you can find the plans and specifications there.
Further questions, where can we direct them?
You can direct them to either myself or Paul Graves, who's the project manager from the town, or certainly to Mass DOT. But we're happy to take on the comments.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
And any further comments about trees or anything like that, you can direct them to me as well.
Thank you very much. Very helpful. Thank you very much.
Great, fantastic. With that, as Griffin noted, we do have a Cape Cod Rail Trail project page on the Town of Barnstable website on the DPW page. So we do have, as Griffin said, all of our plans are up there, as well as recent communications and previous public meeting recordings. So please feel free to reach out if you would like a copy of the direct link. And we did record this meeting as well, so we will have this on file should we need to reference back to it. Unless you have anything else to add, Andy?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
This is Mike with Mass DOT. I know Melissa Rogerson is on with Lawrence Lynch as well. Just kind of curious when we would get a final decision to kind of move forward with a lot of the tree work from the town.
So Michael, basically, at the conclusion of this hearing, you'll be notified within about 24 hours.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
No problem. And yeah, I guess my only final comments are to thank everybody for showing up, and thank you for your comments and your concerns about the Cape Cod Rail Trail. Again, as Griffin and Kelly stated, please contact the Town of Barnstable either via email or phone call, and we will be more than happy to answer any further questions on this project or trees affected by this project. Thank you.